The lunch rush hums like a restless song. Clinking glasses, sizzling pans, a bell above the door chiming every few minutes. The kind of noise that drowns stories before they start. Jacob moves through it all like rhythm in human form. Quiet, graceful, unnoticed. A pen behind his ear, a clean towel over his arm, shoes that once were black but now gray from miles of service. "Refill, sir?" he asks gently, already pouring before the man can answer. The customer blinks, smiles. "You read minds?" Jacob returns a soft grin. Only when they're thirsty. He places the cup down just right. Not a spill, not a sound. At another table, a woman waves her fork. "Young man, is this salad gluten-free?" "Yes, ma'am," he says. "And so am I. Free of everything but debt." She laughs briefly, then forgets him when her phone lights up. Jacob turns away. Behind his calm exhaustion lingers in his eyes. He checks his watch, a cheap digital one, and exhales. 5 more hours. Rent is due. Shoes for Ella are overdue. He wipes a spotless counter again, just to stay moving. He's learned that in the service world, kindness is invisible currency. You give it freely and pray someday it finds its way back. In the kitchen, the cook calls, "Jacob, table 6. He grabs the tray, 2 soups, a sandwich, 1 slice of hope, and heads out. Passing a family booth, he pauses. A little girl laughs at a crayon drawing of a cat with wings. For a flicker, he smiles wider. Reminded of home, of Ella, waiting with her homework and half a peanut butter sandwich. A soft breeze slips through the door as it opens. The hum of chatter falters. Heads turn one by one. A woman walks in. Her heels click with purpose. Her coat, black cashmere. Her presence, magnetic. The manager straightens. Waiters whisper. Jacob looks up from his tray mid-step. The world stills around him. And just like that, the story of a forgotten man begins. The moment she walks in. A powerful woman stands at the entrance, and everyone knows her name. The door closes behind her with a soft click. Yet it feels louder than everything else. The hum of plates and chatter falters like a song skipping a beat. Evelyn Cross stands tall under the cafe lights, her black coat draped over one arm, eyes scanning the room with the kind of quiet power that makes people sit straighter without knowing why. The manager rushes forward. "Ms. Cross, we didn't expect—" She raises a hand, calm but absolute. "I prefer to eat where people don't expect me." Her voice is silk over steel. She glances toward the back, her team already filing in behind her, all crisp suits and polished shoes. They take the best table by the window, the one Jacob just wiped down seconds ago. Jacob steps closer, forcing a breath steady. "Welcome," he says softly. "Would you like a menu or—" Evelyn looks up, the faintest hint of curiosity in her eyes. "Do I look like I need one?" Jacob blinks. "I suppose not, ma'am. You seem like someone who knows exactly what she wants." A slow smile tugs at her mouth. "Good answer." She sits, unfolding a napkin with surgical precision. Around her, her assistants whisper and type, phones lighting like fireflies. Jacob jots her order, hand shaking just enough to betray nerves. The manager whispers as he passes, "That's Evelyn Cross, Cross Global Hotels. Be careful, she owns half this city." Jacob nods faintly. "Owns half the city. And I can barely own a day," he thinks. He steps back, glancing once more. Her gaze flicks up, sharp, focused, almost studying him. For a second, the world narrows to that one locked glance. Sometimes, fate doesn't knock. It orders lunch and sits right in your section. Jacob's pen slips. The order slip flutters to the floor between them. Their eyes meet. Silence folds the room in half. Something unspoken lingers. Something neither of them yet understands. Jacob bends to pick up the slip, and her gaze doesn't move. Steam curls from bowls as Jacob moves like a quiet metronome between tables. Evelyn's team murmurs in crisp circles of power by the window. Her gaze, though unreadable now, has already marked him. At a corner booth, a young mother fumbles with a wallet, lips counting soundless numbers. A boy beside her taps a paper cup, eyes tracing the dessert case as if it were a faraway shore. "Sweetheart," the mother whispers. "We'll just share the fries, okay?" The boy nods too fast. "I'm not hungry anyway." Jacob draws closer. "How's everything tasting so far?" The mother startles. "We haven't ordered yet. What would you like?" He asks gently. She swallows. "Just water. And, small fries." The boy glances at the grilled cheese on a neighboring plate. Jacob follows his gaze, then looks back at the mother. He lowers his voice. "I can do a kid's grilled cheese, half order. No charge today." Her eyes flash with pride and panic. "No, please. We're fine. It's already paid for," he says, steady. "By the kitchen." He tips a chin toward the back. "The cook's sentimental." The boy whispers, "Does the cook also like chocolate milk?" Jacob smiles. "On special today." He slides to the pass. "One kid's grilled, extra crisp. Chocolate milk. No chit." The cook squints. "You covering again?" Jacob nods. "You're 2 shifts from overtime and 4 shifts from broke." "Make it extra crisp," Jacob says. Kindness is a language the heart learns before the mouth does. Some debts are paid forward, some paid inward. He never knows which saves who. Jacob returns with the plate. The boy's face lifts like dawn. The mother's throat tightens. She says, "I don't have—" "You have today," Jacob answers. "That's enough." The boy bites, melts into the booth. "This is perfect." Jacob taps the table softly. "Good. Eat slow. Let the world wait." Across the room, screens glow, pens scratch. Voices calculate futures. Jacob steps away, shoulders lighter than his wallet. A shadow crosses his path. He looks up. Evelyn, still as a held note, watching. "Was that policy?" one of her assistants murmurs. Evelyn doesn't blink. The winter-light window frames her like a verdict. Her expression reveals nothing. She keeps watching him, eyes cool, unreadable, as the boy lifts the chocolate milk like a small toast. Jacob clears the table beside Evelyn's booth, pretending not to feel her gaze burning through the noise. She's finished half her soup. Her team is already packing up tablets and contracts. "Stay a moment," she says suddenly. The tone isn't a request. Jacob pauses. "Of course, ma'am." Evelyn tilts her head. "That family you helped. You paid for their meal?" He hesitates, cloth twisting in his hand. "Just the kid's sandwich." He looked hungry. Her brow arches. "You're not paid enough to do charity, are you?" Jacob smiles faintly. "Maybe not. But kindness feeds the soul too." The table goes silent. Even her assistants look up, waiting for her to react. Evelyn studies him for a long second. "Do you always talk like that?" "Only when I forget to think first," he replies. A small smile ghosts her lips. Barely there, but real. She sets down her spoon, leans back in thought. "You remind me of someone who hasn't learned the rules," she says. "Maybe that's why I keep breaking them," he answers, soft but sure. Her eyes flicker like a match catching. "The world doesn't reward purity, Mr. Jacob," he says. "Well, Jacob," she says, picking up her pen, "consider this. My gratitude." She scribbles something, tears the page from her checkbook, and folds it neatly. When she stands, she leaves it beneath her coffee cup, an afterthought of power. Jacob reaches for it after she's gone. The numbers hit like thunder, more than a month's pay. Some gifts weigh more than debts. Some tests wear the face of kindness. He stares at the check, pulse quickening, pride and need at war in his chest. Jacob exhales, then tears the check clean in half. The sound of paper tearing cuts through the diner like a sudden silence. 2 halves of a blank check tremble in Jacob's hands before fluttering into the trash. "Jacob!" His co-worker Rena hisses from behind the counter. "What did you just— Was that from her?" He wipes his palms on his apron. "It was too much." "Too much?" Rena whispers. "You could have paid rent, fixed your car, bought your kids something real." Jacob forces a small smile. "Yeah, but then it wouldn't feel real." She shakes her head. "You're gonna die humble." He laughs quietly. "There are worse ways." A customer at the corner table calls for a refill. Jacob nods and moves, his steps measured, almost peaceful. He pours the coffee with the same care he gives everything. Steady hand, no waste, no show. At the back, the manager watches from the doorway, muttering to another waiter. He just tore up a check from Evelyn Cross. You believe that? Phones are out. A glint of a lens catches the light. Someone whispers, "Record it." People love that kind of stuff. Rena folds her arms. They're filming you, Jake. Then maybe they'll learn something, he says without turning. Pride is a strange hunger. It keeps you alive when the world wants you small, even when your stomach's empty. Jacob drops the coffee pot on its stand, unties his apron, and glances at the clock. End of shift. No applause. No grand meaning. Just a man walking home with nothing but peace in his chest and coins in his pocket. Outside, rain starts tapping against the glass. The reflection in the window catches him mid-step, half in shadow, half in light. Behind him, a coworker lowers her phone camera, staring at the clip she just recorded. Morning. The city wakes with its usual noise, horns, heels, headlines, but inside Jacob's small apartment, the noise comes from a different kind of storm. His phone won't stop buzzing. "Dad," Ella says, rubbing her sleepy eyes. "Your phone's shaking again." Jacob picks it up from the cracked counter. Notifications explode across the screen. Mentions, tags, messages. A headline blinks. Waiter tears up, CEO's blank check. Internet calls him the man money couldn't buy. He stares at it, stunned. Rena's voice comes through a voicemail. "Jacob, you're trending. The clip's everywhere." She saw it too, he scrolls. His face fills the screen, frozen mid-laugh, then ripping the check. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. "Dad, you're famous?" Ella asks, half excited, half confused. He forces a smile. "No, baby, just visible." The world loves stories of virtue it doesn't understand. It claps for humility, then forgets to practice it. He turns off the phone, exhales, and pours cereal into a chipped bowl. Milk runs thin. Outside, the clouds bruise gray over the horizon. At the restaurant, whispers travel faster than orders. The manager stands by the kitchen door, arms crossed, expression cold. "Jacob," he says when the door chimes. "Office, now." Jacob steps inside. "If this is about—" "It is," the manager cuts in. "We don't need your kind of fame. The owner's furious. You made a spectacle out of her generosity." "I didn't post it," Jacob says quietly. "Doesn't matter. Damage is done." The man points toward the door. "Turn in your apron." The words land heavy but clean. Jacob nods once, no protest. He folds his apron neatly, sets it on the counter. Narration, somber. Some storms don't roar. They whisper you out the door. As he steps into the rain, his reflection in the puddle flickers, and the phone in his pocket buzzes again. Rain drips from the awning outside the diner as Jacob steps into the evening. His apron's gone, but the faint crease on his shirt still marks where it used to be. He walks slowly through the wet streets, shoes squeaking, a brown paper bag tucked under his arm. Leftovers the cook slipped him before he left. Streetlights shimmer through puddles. A bus hisses by, splashing his pant leg. He doesn't flinch. When the world decides you've had your 15 minutes, it doesn't care that you needed 20. Jacob cuts through a narrow alley toward the row of worn-out apartments that smell faintly of soap and rain. On the second floor, a single window glows yellow. He unlocks the door quietly. "Daddy!" Ella rushes from the couch, socks sliding across the floor. Her arms wrap around his waist before the door fully closes. He kneels, scooping her up. "Hey, my sunshine!" "You're wet," she giggles, brushing his hair back. "Yeah," he says. "Guess the sky was crying for me. Did you get in trouble at work?" Jacob hesitates. "Something like that." She frowns, tiny brows knitting. "They don't like you?" He smiles gently. "Not everyone will, but you do. And that's enough." She runs to her piggy bank, a pink ceramic heart with a missing ear. "You can have this," she says, holding it out. "If you need it." Jacob blinks hard, kneeling again. "Sweetheart, that's your savings for your art set." "I can draw later," she insists. "You can't be sad now." He wraps his hands around hers, closing the piggy bank between them. "You're my best investment." She laughs, not understanding but liking the sound of it. He sets the leftovers on the table, pretending they're a feast. A man can lose a job and still come home rich, if there's someone waiting at the window. Jacob kisses her forehead, whispering, "Everything's gonna be okay." The rain taps louder outside, steady and honest. He turns toward his phone on the counter, one unread message glowing softly. "Lunch meant more than you know." The apartment hums with quiet, the kind that feels too heavy for its size. Rain still trickles down the window, tracing slow rivers over city light. Jacob sits at the small kitchen table, laptop open, the glow washing over his tired face. Ella sleeps on the couch under a blanket, one hand clutching a crayon. He refreshes his inbox, mostly bills and spam. Then, a new one. Subject: "Lunch meant more than you know." Sender: "Unknown." He hesitates, cursor hovering. Click. "I saw what you did. The world saw the act. But I saw the reason. That lunch wasn't charity. It was grace. I owe you a conversation." E.C. Jacob leans back slowly, pulse steady but deep. "E.C.," he whispers. The initials bloom recognition. Evelyn Cross. He stares at the words again. Short, deliberate. No signature needed. Rena's text pings next. "She's trending too. Your story's everywhere." Jacob types a reply, stops midway. Deletes it. Types again. "Thank you, but I'm nobody special." He sends it, closes the laptop and looks toward Ella. Her small face framed by the glow of a nightlight. Sometimes the world finds you when you least want to be found. Sometimes grace walks in wearing power, looking for something money forgot how to buy. Jacob exhales, resting his forehead on folded hands. The rain outside slows, almost like it's listening. He doesn't know what tomorrow brings, but for the first time in a long time, tomorrow feels like it's coming for him, not at him. The inbox light flickers again. A new message arrives. "Lunch tomorrow, my treat." E.C. Morning sunlight slips through the blinds, soft and gold. The hum of a kettle fills the kitchen. Ella stirs on the couch, her blanket bunched under her chin. Jacob stares at his laptop, at the same unread email. Subject: "Lunch. My treat." He reads it again, as if the words might vanish if he blinks too long. "Dad?" Ella's voice is sleepy. "Why are you staring at your screen like it's scary?" He smiles faintly. "Because it kind of is." "Is it from your boss?" He hesitates. "Something like that," she yawns. Then right back. "You always tell me not to ignore people." Jacob laughs under his breath. "You're too smart for mornings." He types slowly. "Thank you for the invitation, Ms. Cross. I don't know if I belong at your table, but I'll listen if you're sure you want me there." He hovers over send, then clicks. A quiet resolve settles. The poor rarely eat with the powerful, but sometimes grace reserves a seat before pride can protest. Hours later, same restaurant. Jacob enters wearing his cleanest shirt, the collar just a little too tight. Conversations hush when the door chimes. Evelyn sits at her usual table by the window, alone this time. Her phone rests face down, a rare gesture of attention. She looks up, a faint smirk touching her lips. "You came," Jacob nods. "I wasn't sure I should." "I wasn't sure you would," she replies. He chuckles nervously. "I'm still not sure I belong here." Evelyn gestures to the seat across from her. "Neither am I. That's what makes this interesting." Jacob sits. The air between them hums with quiet curiosity, like two sides of the same song finally hearing each other. Evelyn lifts her cup, eyes steady. "Tell me, Jacob, why did you really tear up my check?" The restaurant looks the same. Same polished silverware, same humming jazz, same bell above the door. Yet Jacob feels smaller sitting in front of the table instead of beside it. Evelyn watches him like a study in patience, stirring her coffee without drinking it. "You seem uncomfortable," she says finally. He exhales a nervous laugh. "Maybe because last time I was here I was standing up." Then pretend you're still serving me, she says. It might help, Jacob smirks. Wouldn't that defeat the point of your invitation? Her eyes glint with amusement. You assume there's a point. Their waiter approaches, nervous in front of Evelyn. Ma'am, what will you be having? She glances at Jacob. You order for both of us. His eyebrows rise. You trust me with that kind of power? I trust curiosity, she says. He scans the menu he already knows by heart. Tomato bisque and half-grilled cheese. It's what I used to bring when people couldn't decide who they were hungry to be. She smiles faintly. That's poetic. I didn't expect that. I don't usually lead with poetry, he replies. Doesn't get good tips. The waiter leaves. Evelyn folds her hands, gaze sharpening. So tell me, why did you tear up my check? Jacob looks down at his reflection in the coffee. Because it wasn't a tip. It was a test. Her lips part slightly. A test? He nods. To see if my kindness had a price tag. I failed enough tests in life. I didn't want to fail that one. Sometimes the tables turn, not to humble the proud, but to remind the humble that dignity eats too. Evelyn leans back, thoughtful, the faintest shadow crossing her eyes. She says softly, What if it wasn't a test, but an apology? The soft clink of silverware fills the quiet. Outside, sunlight glances through the window, scattering gold across the table where two worlds share coffee. Evelyn leans forward, elbows resting lightly, eyes sharp. You think everything from people like me comes with strings attached? Jacob shrugs. Not everything. Just the things that shine too bright to be free. She studies him. You really believe that check was about control? I believe, he says steady, that sometimes generosity is just guilt dressed in better fabric. Her expression shifts, half offense, half intrigue. That's bold. I've cleaned tables long enough to know pity when it's plated, Jacob replies. The silence between them stretches, delicate and tense. Evelyn breathes in slowly. And yet here you are, eating with me. Because you asked, he says, not because you paid. That line lands like truth should, simple, heavy, irreversible. She looks down at her coffee, then at him again. You really don't want anything from me, do you? He shakes his head. No, I've got enough debt to know I don't need more. A quiet smile curves her lips. You're the first person to turn down money from me and still sound richer. Jacob laughs softly. Maybe because I'm not for sale. Some people earn wealth. Others earn peace. The rare ones earn both and give away the second to protect the first. Evelyn's tone softens. You're either foolish or fearless, Mr. Jacob. Maybe both, he replies. The waiter sets down their plates, breaking the tension. Evelyn pushes hers aside, the steam fading between them. She folds her napkin slowly. Then let's test that fearlessness. Come in tomorrow morning. I have an interview waiting. Morning sunlight spills through the glass tower of cross-global hotels. The lobby gleams, marble, mirrors, movement. It's a cathedral of ambition, and Jacob looks painfully out of place inside it. His shoes squeak once on the polished floor. He stops, checks his reflection in the elevator door. Shirt pressed, tie uneven, heart loud. Mr. Jacob? A receptionist calls gently. Ms. Cross is waiting upstairs. He nods, trying not to look nervous. Right. Thank you. The elevator ride feels eternal. Soft music plays, the kind he used to hum while clearing tables. When the doors open, Evelyn stands by a panoramic window. City skyline behind her like a crown she doesn't notice. Right on time, she says. I like that. Jacob swallows. Didn't want to keep the person who fired me waiting. Her brow arches. You weren't fired by me. You were released by people afraid of stories they can't control. He chuckles lightly. That's a poetic way to say I went viral. She gestures toward a seat. Sit. I've been thinking. That sounds dangerous, he murmurs, earning a brief smile from her. I want you to lead something new, she says. A hospitality empathy initiative. Training staff across my hotels. Not in service, but in heart. You have what most of my managers don't. Jacob blinks. Ma'am, I'm a waiter, not a leader. You're wrong, Evelyn says firmly. You led without knowing it. You made people feel seen. That's leadership. Some doors don't open to opportunity. They open to a mirror showing you what you already were. Jacob's voice falters. I don't even have a degree. Evelyn turns, eyes steady. Then consider this your education. He stares out at the city below and whispers almost to himself, what if I'm not enough? Jacob walks home with the job offer folded in his pocket like a letter he's afraid to open. The evening light bends gold over the rooftops, but the weight in his chest won't lift. Ella runs to him the moment he opens the door. You're smiling weird, she says, squinting. He chuckles. Weird how? Like you're happy and scared at the same time. He crouches down. You ever been scared of something good? She tilts her head. Like broccoli? He laughs. The first real laugh in days. Exactly like broccoli. He lifts her into his arms, spinning once, but when he sets her down, his gaze drifts to the photo on the fridge. His late wife, Anna, in her waitress uniform. Mid-laugh, a smudge of whipped cream on her cheek. She'd once told him, service isn't about standing lower, it's about lifting others higher. He hadn't known then how those words would become a map for every hard day after she was gone. He sits at the kitchen table staring at the job offer. Training manager, he murmurs. That sounds like someone else. Ella crawls onto his lap. Then pretend to be him until you are. He looks at her, startled by her small, unshakable faith. You sound like your mom. She sounds like you, she says, smiling. Jacob closes his eyes. Her words hit harder than comfort should. There's a moment before courage where silence asks if you're worthy of the noise that follows. Most people never answer. He exhales, unfolds the paper again, and signs it. His hand trembles, but the ink doesn't. He whispers, Okay, Anna, I'll serve again. Just higher this time. Tomorrow waits in the reflection of his coffee cup, and this time he plans to meet it head-on. The lobby of Cross Global feels even taller the second time. Jacob's ID badge hangs awkwardly against his chest, still smelling like fresh plastic. The elevator hums, swallowing him into the 27th floor. Training department. He straightens his tie, takes a steadying breath, and steps into a room full of pressed shirts, sharp glances, and quiet laughter. A man by the coffee machine snickers. That's him, the waiter from the clip. Another adds, Guess we're doing charity hires now. Jacob pretends not to hear. Morning, he says evenly, setting his notepad down. I'm Jacob, looking forward to learning with you. One woman smirks. Learning? I thought you were teaching us how to smile at broke people. A few chuckles ripple across the room. Jacob forces a polite smile. If I can teach you anything, he says, it's that broken aren't the same thing. That shuts them up. For now. The door opens behind him. Evelyn steps in quietly, clipboard in hand. Continue, she says. He hadn't noticed her watching. Jacob turns back to the group. We're not here to learn service scripts. We're here to remember what they mean. A plate isn't just food. It's trust. A smile isn't a tactic. It's permission. The room falls silent, unsure whether to mock or listen. Evelyn watches, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. Every first day begins with doubt waiting at the door. How you greet it decides who stays. You or your fear. Jacob closes his folder calmly. Let's start again, he says. Tell me one thing that made you feel human this week. No one answers. Yet. But something in the air has shifted. Evelyn's gaze lingers, faint admiration breaking through her usual armor. The training session stretches past lunch. Coffee cups empty, notebooks fill, and tension thins into something that almost feels like understanding. Jacob stands at the front of the room, sleeves rolled to his elbows, eyes bright with quiet conviction. So, he says, pacing lightly. If a guest yells at you because their soup's cold, what do you fix first? The soup or their day? A hesitant voice answers. Their day? He smiles. Exactly. Anyone can heat soup. Not everyone can warm a moment. Laughter flickers. Not mocking this time. He leans against the desk. When you serve with empathy, you're not beneath anyone. You're between people and their better selves. That's power. Evelyn watches from the corner, silent, expression unreadable but softer than usual. The young woman who mocked him earlier raises a hand. You really believe that? That kindness changes business? Jacob nods. Kindness is business. Money comes and goes. Dignity keeps the lights on. There's no clapping, no cheer, just silence, full and thick, the kind that means the words landed. Sometimes applause doesn't sound like hands. It sounds like hearts finally listening. Evelyn steps forward slowly. Not bad for a waiter, she murmurs. Jacob chuckles. Still am, ma'am. Just serving a different menu. A faint smile touches her lips. Genuine this time. As the staff begin to file out, Evelyn stops by him. Who taught you to see people like that? She asks quietly. He looks down, hands in his pockets. My daughter, he says. She doesn't know how not to. Her eyes soften, a flicker of emotion breaking her composure. Evelyn turns toward the window, whispering almost to herself, I used to know someone like that. The afternoon light slants through the tall windows of Evelyn's office. The city outside glitters like a kingdom of glass, unreachable and cold. Jacob stands by the desk, hands clasped. The meeting had ended an hour ago, but she'd asked him to stay. Evelyn sets her pen down. You said your daughter taught you to see people. What did you mean? Jacob smiles faintly. Ella's 7. She still thinks everyone's good until proven otherwise. That sounds naive, Evelyn replies, half curious, half defensive. He nods. Maybe, but it also sounds peaceful. When she sees someone sad, she doesn't ask why. She just brings them something, a drawing, a snack, a hug. She doesn't know about pride yet. Evelyn leans back, eyes distant. My son used to do that. He'd leave notes in my briefcase, tiny ones. Good luck today, Mom. Her voice falters for the briefest moment. Jacob doesn't speak, just listens, giving her the same quiet space he gives strangers. She exhales, steadying herself. He stopped doing it when he turned 15. I told him I didn't need luck, I needed focus. Jacob's tone is gentle. Maybe he just needed you to need him. The silence that follows isn't awkward. It's heavy, fragile, true. Some wounds don't bleed. They echo. Through the way we speak, the way we lead, the way we love too late. Evelyn clears her throat, deflecting emotion with formality. Your daughter's lucky. Jacob smiles softly. No, ma'am. I'm the lucky one. She reminds me who I wanted to be before the world told me to hurry. For a moment, Evelyn looks away, blinking fast. She presses her lips together, whispering almost to herself. I hope he still remembers me that way. Morning breaks in chaos. Phones ring across Cross Global's sleek office floors like alarms that won't stop. Screens flash headlines faster than coffee can pour. Viral waiter hired by billionaire CEO. From diner to director, the internet's new obsession. Evelyn Cross, saint or strategist? Evelyn's assistant bursts through her door. Ma'am, the story's everywhere. News, blogs, even morning shows. PR's panicking. Evelyn doesn't look up from her laptop. Let them panic quietly. Should we make a statement? She pauses, thinking. No. The more you chase attention, the faster it runs away. Across town, Jacob's phone buzzes non-stop. Message requests, interview offers, sponsorships. He scrolls, half amused, half uneasy. Rena texts, You're officially famous, boss man. He types back, Fame doesn't pay rent if you're bad at it. Ella leans on the couch, giggling. Dad, you're on the news. They said you made a rich lady cry. Jacob groans softly. Well, that's not the headline I wanted, she shrugs. You look nice, though. The world loves to crown kindness. Right before it questions the crown. Back at headquarters, Evelyn scrolls through comments. Half worship, half suspicion. She's just rebranding herself. He's just lucky. Publicity stunt disguised as morality. Her reflection in the monitor looks tired. She closes the laptop, stands by the window and stares at the city that built her walls. Evelyn whispers, "They see the story, not the souls." Across town, Jacob looks up from the glowing screen as a car pulls to a stop outside his building. Through the window, a familiar driver steps out. Cross Global's chauffeur. The air in Jacob's small apartment smells like dinner. Stir-fried vegetables, rice, and the kind of humble warmth that fills spaces with comfort. Ella sets the table, humming to a song on the radio. Her laughter fills the room as she arranges forks and napkins with exaggerated care. Jacob pulls the chicken from the oven, wiping his forehead with the back of his hand. "What's the rule about eating food you didn't cook?" Ella looks up, smiling. "Don't," he laughs, plating the meal. "Good rule?" There's a knock at the door. It's sharp, unexpected. Jacob freezes, spatula in hand. Ella's eyes go wide. "Is it a guest?" Jacob hesitates, wiping his hands on a towel. "Stay here. I'll get it." He opens the door, expecting a delivery, but instead, it's Evelyn. She stands there, wind whipping through her coat, eyes tired but determined. "Ms. Cross?" Jacob asks, surprised, his voice thick with confusion. "What?" She steps inside without waiting for an answer. "It's Evelyn," she says firmly. "And I think you owe me a dinner." Jacob stands frozen, unsure how to react. She walks past him into the small living room, her heels clicking against the worn floorboards. Ella peeks around the corner, eyes wide. Evelyn notices her instantly, offering a smile that seems more genuine than any smile she's given before. "Hello, sweet girl. I didn't mean to interrupt your dinner." Ella steps forward, curiosity written all over her face. "Are you the lady from the TV?" Evelyn crouches to meet her eye level. "I suppose I am." Jacob swallows, his heart pounding. He glances back at the table, the food growing cold. Sometimes, the people you need the most don't show up until you're ready to eat alone. And when they do, they don't just change your meal. They change your life. Evelyn stands up, glancing at Jacob, her voice softer now. "I've been thinking about what you said. Maybe it's time to talk about that job again." The room feels different now. Softer, warmer. The tension that usually clings to every corner of Jacob's apartment is starting to lift. Evelyn sits on the couch, her coat draped beside her, watching Ella as she finishes her drawing at the table. Jacob places the last of the plates on the table, his movements slower than usual. He watches her quietly, still surprised by her presence here, of all places. "So," Jacob says, settling into the chair across from her. "What made you show up?" Evelyn smiles, though it's fleeting. I've been thinking. I don't often listen to what's unsaid, and you?" "Well, you made me listen." Jacob's eyes narrow slightly. "I didn't mean to." "I think you did," she replies quietly. "You remind me of someone. Someone I lost." The words hang between them, a delicate pause. Ella glances up, sensing the shift in the air. Evelyn's gaze turns to the little girl, then back to Jacob. Jacob's voice softens. "Who?" Evelyn hesitates, looking out the window at the city below. "My son." He used to have that same light in his eyes, that same unshakable belief in people, even when they didn't deserve it. Even when he didn't deserve it. Jacob's chest tightens at her words. "You lost him?" Evelyn exhales, nodding. "Car accident a few years ago. He was 17. Ella, now quiet, looks at Evelyn and then at Jacob. "I'm sorry." Evelyn smiles, but it's heavy. "Thank you, sweetheart." Some wounds never heal. They just change shape. They morph from loss into something you can carry, but never quite leave behind. Evelyn turns back to Jacob, her voice quieter now. "I didn't expect to find myself here. But maybe it's exactly where I need to be." Jacob looks at her, the weight of her grief palpable, but the edges of her pain softened by something he can't quite name. Jacob leans forward, his voice a whisper. Maybe we both needed to listen. The silence between them deepens, but it's no longer uncomfortable. It feels more like a shared space where words aren't needed to understand. Jacob leans back in his chair, his eyes on Evelyn, searching for something. You said I reminded you of your son. Why? She hesitates, then shifts her gaze toward the window where the skyline blurs into twilight. He used to believe in people like you. People who give no questions, no expectations. Jacob's voice softens. And you stopped believing? Evelyn doesn't answer immediately. She looks down at her hands, fingers tracing the edge of her cup. I don't know when I stopped. Maybe it was when I became too busy, too focused on keeping the empire together. She laughs bitterly, the sound hollow. I used to think I could control everything. Jacob nods slowly, his gaze steady. Control's a good illusion. She looks at him, surprised by the simplicity of his words. You sound like you know that for a fact. I've spent my whole life trying to control the outcome of things, he admits. But it's the moments I didn't control, like this one, that taught me more than anything else ever could. Evelyn holds his gaze, a small flicker of recognition crossing her face. You're right. I've been chasing a version of control that doesn't even exist anymore. Jacob stands up, turning toward the small kitchenette. We all get lost in the chase. He grabs a water bottle, his back to her. I guess it's just about finding what's worth chasing. Evelyn's voice comes softer. And what is worth chasing for you, Jacob? Some people spend their lives running after the wrong things, while others only discover the right path when they stop and listen to what's in front of them. Jacob's voice is low when he replies, What's worth chasing? The people who don't have to be chased. Evelyn's expression softens. Maybe it's time to stop running. The apartment is quiet now, the evening's golden light fading into soft blues. Jacob and Evelyn sit across from each other at the kitchen table. No longer strangers, but something in between. Two people who have yet to admit how much their lives have quietly changed. Evelyn looks down at the table, her fingers tracing the rim of her water glass, a nervous habit she doesn't usually show. Jacob watches her carefully, the tension in the air too thick to ignore. I'm sorry for what happened, Evelyn says suddenly, her voice breaking the silence. Jacob raises an eyebrow, leaning back in his chair. Sorry? For what? For the way I treated you at first. She exhales deeply, looking up. I judged you, saw your story, and I assumed too much. Jacob's gaze softens, but his voice remains steady. Everyone's guilty of assuming things, especially when we think we know better. Evelyn's lips press together, the corners trembling as she works to keep her composure. I judged you because you were a waiter. I thought you were beneath me. I thought I could fix you with a job. But you were already whole. Maybe even more whole than I'll ever be. Jacob shakes his head slightly. I'm not some kind of hero, Evelyn. You're wrong, she says quietly, her eyes shining with something unspoken. You're not a hero. You're just someone who sees people, and that's more than most ever do. A heavy silence falls between them. Jacob doesn't know what to say, but somehow the words don't matter. The apology is in the air now, and the healing begins, slow and steady. Some apologies come too late to undo the past, but some come just in time to change everything. Evelyn smiles faintly. I'm sorry, Jacob, for not seeing you sooner. Jacob nods. It's all right. We all see when we're ready. She exhales, relieved. Thank you for helping me see. The walls of Cross Global feel a little thinner today. The air in the office is charged, a low hum vibrating in the spaces between whispers. Jacob walks through the hallways, his footsteps a steady rhythm against the polished floor. But there's a weight in the air that even his calm can't settle. He stops by the water cooler, and the usual faces turn quickly, pretending they're not staring. The murmur of conversation picks up again when he's out of earshot, but not before he catches the words, just a PR stunt. Can't believe Evelyn hired him. Guy's a fake, a charity case. Jacob exhales slowly, pushing past the noise as his mind drifts to the people who matter. Ella, his truth. At his desk, he begins to organize the papers in front of him. forcing his focus onto the task at hand. The office is quiet, a low buzz of laptops and phone calls. But the tension has a texture now, sharp, uncomfortable. The worst part about rumors is not that they hurt, it's that they change how you see yourself, long before anyone else can. Evelyn's office door opens, and she steps into the hallway, the sound of her heels sharp against the quiet. She scans the room, her eyes landing on Jacob. She walks toward him without hesitation, her presence commanding. "Jacob," she says, her voice steady but the edge of something unspoken beneath. "There's a storm brewing in the press. People are talking." He nods, not looking up. "I've heard." "Don't let it shake you," she says quietly. "We've made our choices, and you belong here." The storm rages, but sometimes it's not the weather that changes the landscape. It's the trees that learn how to stand strong in it. Jacob meets her eyes, a quiet strength settling in. "Thank you." As Evelyn walks away, her gaze lingering on him, Jacob's phone buzzes again. A new headline flashes across the screen. "Is Jacob the real deal? CEO's charity project raises eyebrows." The evening settles in quietly, the dim light from the kitchen lamp spilling over the small table where Ella is hunched over a stack of papers. She's scribbling furiously, her tongue poking out in concentration. Jacob sits across from her, stirring a mug of coffee, his phone buzzing again on the counter. But he ignores it for the moment. "Dad, I need help," Ella says, not looking up from her project. Jacob tilts his head, setting the mug down. "What's the project about?" She pulls the paper closer to her chest and shows him, her handwriting neat but excited. The title reads, "Why My Dad is the Best Person in the World." He laughs softly. "That's sweet, baby, but I'm not sure I'm the best." Ella rolls her eyes. "You're the best, Dad." She taps the paper with her pencil. "I need to write about you, but I don't know what to say other than that you're awesome." Jacob smiles, a warmth spreading through him. "Well, that's a good start." She looks up at him, eyes serious for a second. "How do you make people like you, Dad? You're always kind, even when people don't deserve it." Jacob's smile fades slightly, the question cutting deeper than he expected. I don't want to give up on people, sweetheart. Sometimes the world's rough, but we're here, right?" She nods, satisfied with that answer. Children see with eyes untainted by the filters adults wear. They see the truth of who you are, before the world convinces you to hide it. Ella finishes her last sentence with a flourish, proud of her work. "There, I'm done." She grins up at him. "You're perfect, Dad." Jacob leans over and hugs her tightly. "And you're my reason to keep trying." As Ella places her paper in her backpack, Jacob's phone buzzes again. This time, it's a message from Evelyn. "I'd like to speak with you tomorrow. Meet me at 10 a.m. The next day, Jacob stands outside Cross Global's polished entrance, his hands tucked deep in his jacket pockets. The air feels thinner here, colder somehow. The glass and steel reflect more than just the skyline. They reflect a version of himself he's still getting used to. He takes a deep breath and steps inside. The lobby hums, clean and clinical, every surface gleaming. He walks toward the elevator, the faint clink of his shoes the only sound. At the 27th floor, Evelyn's assistant greets him with a practiced smile. "Ms. Cross is expecting you." Jacob nods, his stomach twisting. He follows her down a long corridor into Evelyn's office, where she's waiting, standing by the window, gazing out at the city below. She turns when he enters, her eyes focused but warm. "Jacob," she says, her voice steady but carrying a weight he can feel. "Come in. I've been thinking." He steps forward, unsure what to expect. "I know you've had your doubts about this job," she begins, sitting behind her desk, "but you've proven something to me, and to this company. You've shown a kind of leadership that doesn't need a title." Jacob shifts his weight, his mind already racing. "I'm not sure I'm the right person for the job, Ms. Cross. I've only been here a few weeks." Evelyn holds up a hand, cutting him off. "No one ever starts with the right title, Jacob. But you have the heart, and I think that's what this company needs." She slides a folder across the desk. Inside is a promotion letter. Training manager for customer empathy. Sometimes, the biggest leap isn't about climbing higher. It's about standing in the place you never thought you could stand. Evelyn looks at him. It's yours if you want it. Jacob glances at the letter, then back at her, his heart pounding. I want it. Evelyn smiles, a glimmer of pride in her eyes. Then let's get to work. The training room feels unfamiliar now, the polished floor reflecting a new energy. One Jacob hasn't quite embraced yet. He's standing at the front, the company's logo gleaming behind him. A mix of nervousness and anticipation settles in his chest as he faces the staff he's about to lead. Evelyn stands at the back of the room, arms crossed, watching closely. Her expression is unreadable, but Jacob feels her eyes like a quiet challenge. The team murmurs, eyes scanning the new manager. Some look skeptical, others curious. Jacob swallows, the weight of his role heavy on his shoulders. He steps forward, taking a deep breath. You know what's expected of you here, he starts, his voice steady, though a little unsure. Polished service, perfect timing, a smile that never falters. But you know what else I've learned? He pauses, letting their eyes find his. What matters more than all of that is what you can't see. How you make people feel, not just because it's good for business, but because it's good for people. The silence stretches, the weight of his words settling in. Jacob continues, his voice growing stronger with every word. Empathy isn't just a skill to be learned. It's a muscle you have to work. And if we're going to serve anyone, customers, staff, or even ourselves, we need to build it. Together. Evelyn steps forward, her voice smooth but firm. You heard him. She looks around at the team. This is about more than learning a procedure. It's about learning who we are. It's one thing to have the words. It's another to find the courage to use them when they matter most. Jacob looks at the staff, meeting their eyes, feeling the first spark of confidence ignite. This isn't just about service. It's about respect. Evelyn watches him quietly, her lips curling into a faint smile. It starts with you, Jacob. The office is dark now, the hum of the building quieting as the night settles in. Jacob sits at his desk, papers scattered in front of him. Training manuals, notes, scribbled ideas for the next staff meeting. His fingers hover over the keyboard but don't move, the weight of the day pressing down on him. Outside the window, the city glows, its lights like stars too far to touch. The air feels different tonight, still and heavy. Evelyn enters quietly, her heels muted on the floor. She stops at the door, watching him for a moment before speaking. You're still here? Jacob looks up, surprised. I wasn't sure I'd be ready. She smiles, but it's soft. Not her usual commanding presence, but something warmer, something less guarded. None of us are ready when we start. But you've made a difference, Jacob. He shakes his head, looking down at the papers. I'm just trying to keep up. Evelyn walks over, leaning against the desk. You're not just keeping up. You're moving the needle. Jacob sighs, running a hand through his hair. I don't know, Evelyn. Some days I feel like I'm failing at everything. My team, my daughter, even myself. She pauses, then sits down across from him, her eyes softening. You're human, Jacob. It's okay to feel that way. But you've already done more than most people would even try. Sometimes, the hardest part of the journey isn't the work. It's learning how to believe in the difference you're making, even when you can't see it yet. Evelyn's voice is steady. You're doing it right. Don't forget that. Jacob looks up, meeting her eyes. Thank you. Evelyn stands, her smile almost tender now. Get some rest, Jacob. Tomorrow's another chance to make it count. The morning light is cold, slicing through the office windows, hitting Jacob just as he enters Cross Global. He's still adjusting to his new role, the weight of it settling in with every step. The elevator ride feels longer than usual, the hum of the metal box a reminder of how far he's come and how quickly things can change. When he steps off the elevator, a cold whisper follows him. The office is unusually quiet today, but the silence feels wrong, filled with judgment. Jacob walks down the corridor, the murmurs growing louder as he nears his desk. He notices the staff huddled in small groups, some glancing at him with uncomfortable stares. A few colleagues shift their eyes away as he approaches, pretending not to notice. Rena, his closest ally here, meets him with a frown.
Jake, have you heard?
He stops in front of her. Heard what? She looks around, lowering her voice. The tabloids. There's a headline this morning. CEO's viral waiter is a fraud, using his charity stunt for fame. They're saying you used Evelyn to get to the top. Jacob's chest tightens, the air around him thickening. He steps back, eyes darting toward his desk. The headline flashes in his mind, a sharp sting. The world loves to lift you up, but it loves to tear you down faster when you're standing on something too fragile to hold. He straightens, taking in a sharp breath. I didn't ask for any of this. Rena looks conflicted, a mix of sympathy and worry in her eyes. I know, Jake, but the story's spreading fast. You need to say something before it gets worse. Jacob looks at the phone in his hand, the notifications lighting up with texts, calls, and messages from people he didn't know he'd let in. Evelyn's voice cuts through the tension from the doorway. Jacob. He turns, his heart sinking. She's standing there, her expression unreadable. Meet me in my office. Now. Jacob enters Evelyn's office, the door closing behind him with a soft click. The tension in the air is thick, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. Evelyn is sitting at her desk, her eyes fixed on the papers in front of her. But her posture is rigid, tense, as if she's been holding something back. She looks up when he enters, her expression unreadable. But Jacob can see the flicker of something in her eyes, something he hasn't seen before. Guilt, maybe, or uncertainty. Jacob, she starts, her voice measured. You've seen the headlines. I assume you've heard the rumors? He nods, his hands tucked in his pockets, trying to keep the anger from boiling over. Yeah, I've heard enough. Evelyn leans forward slightly, her eyes narrowing. This isn't just about you anymore. It's about the reputation of this company, of everything I've worked for. Jacob's jaw tightens. So what? You're going to fire me now too? Just like that? Evelyn doesn't flinch, but the tension in her shoulders betrays her. I'm not here to fire you, Jacob, but I need to know where you stand. Do you believe what they're saying? Do you believe you've been using me? His heart races. He steps closer to her desk, his voice low but steady. No, I don't. I've never used you. But this… He gestures to the screen of headlines flashing across her desk. This is more than I ever signed up for. Evelyn looks at him for a long moment, something shifting in her gaze. Then why do you stay? Jacob's voice catches in his throat for a second. The weight of it too much, because I believe in what we're doing here. But I need to know if you still do. The truth isn't always clear. Sometimes, you have to trust the people who stand with you, even when the world questions your every move. Evelyn stares at him, her gaze lingering. Finally, she speaks softly. Then you'll have to prove it. Jacob stands in front of his desk, the resignation letter heavy in his hand. The city outside the window hums with the same urgency as his heartbeat. His office is still, too still, as if the air itself is holding its breath. He glances at the door, half expecting someone to burst in and stop him. No one does. The silence stretches, thick and final. He stares at the letter, his name at the top. Evelyn's signature still fresh from the meeting earlier in the week. The offer she made sits heavy between them, and yet here he is, holding the piece of paper that will undo everything. His phone buzzes on the desk, a text from Rena. You still in? The media's all over this. Don't let them take you down. He doesn't respond. Instead, he folds the letter, then unfolds it again, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't saying goodbye. It's realizing you've already said it to yourself long before the words left your lips. Jacob glances at the empty chair in front of him. The chair, where he's learned more about himself than he ever imagined. But the questions he's asked himself don't have simple answers. The truth, like everything else, is complicated. He takes a deep breath and begins typing, slow but steady, the words spilling from him as if they've been waiting to be released. To whom it may concern, I'm resigning from my position effective immediately. His fingers hover over the keyboard for a moment longer, but there's nothing else to add. He presses send. The weight lifts slightly. The world, for just a moment, feels a little quieter. As he stands, the door creaks open behind him. Rena's voice calls out softly, "You're leaving, aren't you?" The office is quiet. Too quiet. The desk is empty, the papers from the morning now scattered in a disordered pile. Jacob stands at the doorway, his eyes lingering on the space that's just one step removed from being his own. It's only been a few hours since he sent the resignation letter, but the reality of the empty room feels like a heavy, final goodbye. He steps inside, his footsteps echoing in the stillness. The chair behind the desk remains vacant. The chair that once seemed like a distant dream, now cold and uninviting. The sunlight streams in through the window, casting long shadows across the floor. The city below seems unchanged, indifferent to the personal storm raging within these walls. Jacob takes a breath, looking around the office one last time. He runs his fingers along the edge of the desk, tracing the path where he once hoped to grow, to belong. But something is missing now. Something that never quite fit in this polished world. Some rooms you leave behind, not because you don't belong, but because the door you walk through leads you somewhere else. Sometimes the biggest step forward is the one you take when you walk out of the place you thought you'd stay. His phone buzzes again. This time it's a message from Evelyn. "I hope you know what you're doing. You've got something that most of us will never have. Heart." He stares at the message for a moment, then sets the phone down, his decision firming in his chest. As he walks toward the door, he looks back one last time, the weight of everything settling on him. There's no turning back now. The day is only halfway through, but the city is already buzzing with news. Jacob walks through the busy streets, his phone in his hand, but his mind far away from the glowing screen. The hum of life around him feels distant, almost irrelevant compared to the weight in his chest. His phone buzzes again. He glances down, a notification from Rena. "The truth is out, Jake. People are finally talking about you, for real." He hesitates, staring at the message for a moment before clicking on the link. The headline reads, "Waiter who turned down CEO's check didn't just get hired. He saved his own future." His heart skips, the weight of the words settling into his bones. The story that was once a viral gossip piece is now being spun into something else. Something that feels more like redemption than ridicule. He scrolls further. It's a full article detailing his rejection of Evelyn's offer, how he had chosen dignity over fame, and how his journey from restaurant worker to a leader within Cross Global had inspired more people than anyone had realized. The text goes on to quote employees, managers, and even some of the customers who'd witnessed his integrity firsthand. Sometimes, the truth doesn't need to be defended. It just needs to be seen. And when it is, the world starts listening. Jacob stops walking, his chest tight. For the first time in days, his feet feel planted on the ground. He's not the viral waiter anymore, he's Jacob. And this story is his to tell. He receives another message, this time from Evelyn. "The press is spinning it their way, but you've always been your own story, Jacob. You've just had to believe it." The lights in the press room shine bright. Too bright, like a stage where no one quite knows the script. Journalists murmur among themselves, adjusting cameras and adjusting expectations. Jacob stands at the edge of the room, his palms damp, but his resolve firm. Evelyn walks in, her presence commanding the attention of the room before she even speaks. She's dressed as always, impeccable, composed. But today, there's something in her eyes that speaks of the weight she's carried with her. She steps up to the podium, the buzz of the crowd quieting. "Ladies and gentlemen," she begins, her voice smooth but laced with something deeper, something rare. "I stand before you today to speak the truth." The room goes still, every eye trained on her. I've heard the rumors. I've seen the headlines, the accusations, and I've watched as a man who has worked harder than most, has been unfairly judged, not by his actions, but by the story the world decided to tell. She pauses, looking directly at Jacob. The weight of her gaze carries more than any speech could. Jacob shifts slightly, but his eyes remain locked on her. Evelyn continues, "Jacob didn't use me. He didn't use anyone. He showed me, and all of us, the value of dignity and integrity in a world that too often rewards the opposite. She faces the room fully now, her voice steady. The truth is, I hired Jacob because he was more than I could see, and he's taught me, just as he's taught all of us, what it means to lead with empathy, not power. Apologies come in many forms, but sometimes the most powerful ones are the ones that give you back your humanity. Evelyn looks at Jacob one last time before turning back to the press. I stand by Jacob, I stand by his heart, and I'm proud to say that this company is better for it. The room sits in stunned silence for a heartbeat. Then, like a wave, the applause begins. Jacob exhales, his chest lighter than it's been in days. The weight of the world isn't so heavy when it's finally telling the right story. The sun is low, casting a warm golden hue over the city as Evelyn drives down a quiet street, the engine of her car humming softly in the background. She glances at the map on her phone, the address she's following marked clearly, but something inside her doesn't feel certain. She's searching for more than just an address. She's searching for closure. She turns onto a small, tucked-away street lined with modest homes and weathered fences. The further she drives, the more she feels like she's stepping into a different world, one that feels realer than the glass towers she spent her life building. She pulls up to a small cafe. Second Chance. The sign is weathered, but the door is open, and through the window, she can see people sitting, laughing, enjoying the simple joy of a good meal. Evelyn takes a deep breath, her heart pounding slightly as she steps out of the car. She walks toward the door, each step filled with purpose and uncertainty. She opens the door, the bell above it ringing softly. Inside, the atmosphere is warm, familiar. The smell of fresh coffee and pastries fills the air. It's nothing like the sleek hotels and restaurants she's used to, but it feels comfortable. Behind the counter, Jacob stands, his back turned as he arranges something on a tray. He doesn't hear her approach. There are places you visit to find answers, but sometimes the answer isn't the one you expect. Sometimes it's the one that was there all along, just waiting for you to see it. Evelyn clears her throat softly. Jacob turns, his face lighting up when he sees her. You came, he says, his voice a mix of surprise and something else. Something warmer. Evelyn smiles faintly. I'm here to make things right. Evelyn sits in the small cafe, her hands wrapped around a warm mug of coffee. The world outside seems far away, distant. Here, in the simplicity of this moment, it's easier to breathe. Easier to think? Jacob sits across from her, his fingers absently tracing the rim of his own cup. The quiet hum of conversation around them feels like a backdrop to a scene that's just beginning to unfold. You've made a life here, Evelyn says softly, her eyes scanning the cafe. The people who fill it with the kind of energy she never knew she needed. A good one. Jacob looks out the window, the corners of his lips tugging into a small, genuine smile. I didn't know what I was missing until I found it. Evelyn's gaze falls to the letter sitting between them on the table. A letter from her. Her fingers brush the edge of the envelope. I never meant to make you feel like you had to prove yourself. Jacob meets her eyes, his expression open but guarded. We all have something to prove, Evelyn. Sometimes we just don't know it until it's too late. Evelyn exhales softly, a deep weight lifting from her chest. This letter? She trails off, unsure how to say what she's feeling. It's not just an apology. It's everything I should have said a long time ago. Jacob nods, his gaze softening. You don't have to say anything. You've already shown me more than enough. Sometimes, the most healing words are the ones that come too late. Not because they can't be said, but because they've already been understood. Evelyn places the letter down between them. I'm sorry for everything I missed, Jacob. For everything you deserved. Jacob picks up the letter slowly, folding it into his pocket with a quiet nod. It's okay. We're here now. That's what matters. The car engine hums steadily as Evelyn drives through the winding roads, her gaze fixed ahead. The city she left behind is fading in the rearview mirror, replaced by the quiet, sprawling countryside. The landscape is peaceful, rolling hills stretching out in every direction, the horizon wide and open. Evelyn grips the steering wheel a little tighter, her eyes scanning the road signs as they become less frequent. The small towns growing closer. She's not sure what she's searching for anymore. She just knows that she needs to keep going. Her phone buzzes. She glances at it quickly. A message from Jacob. "You don't have to do this, Evelyn." Her lips curl into a faint smile, but there's an ache behind it. "I need to," she types back, and sets the phone down, refocusing on the road. The small cafe she's looking for comes into view after a few more miles. A simple sign hangs above the door. Second chance. It's everything Evelyn has come to understand. Humble, welcoming, unpretentious. She pulls into the small parking lot and stops the car, staring at the building for a moment. The windows are fogged with the warmth of conversation inside, a light flickering from the corner. The hardest journeys are the ones we take to find ourselves. Not through roads or destinations, but through the people we've left behind. The ones who have quietly held the parts of us that the world never saw. Evelyn steps out of the car, her heart thumping in her chest. She feels like she's walking into the unknown, but for the first time in a long time, it feels like a place where she belongs. As she walks toward the door, she can see Jacob inside, talking with Ella. Their laughter fills the air, bright and free. She pauses at the door, taking a deep breath. Then, without hesitation, she steps inside. The door chimes softly as Evelyn steps inside second chance. The warmth of the cafe immediately wraps around her, and the scent of fresh coffee and baked goods fills the air. The atmosphere is comforting, filled with the low hum of conversation and the occasional clink of cups. Jacob looks up from behind the counter, his expression unreadable at first. Then, as recognition settles in, a soft but genuine smile pulls at the corners of his lips. He stands, wiping his hands on his apron. Evelyn pauses just inside the door, taking in the sight of him. He looks different here, grounded, at peace in a way she hasn't seen before. And beside him, Ella is sitting on a stool, drawing on a piece of paper, completely unaware of the arrival. Jacob steps toward her, his voice soft. "I didn't expect you to come." Evelyn smiles faintly, her eyes filled with a mixture of regret and hope. "I didn't know I was coming either." Ella looks up, her face lighting up in recognition. "You're the lady from the TV!" she exclaims, then hesitates, her eyes darting between them. "Are you here for lunch?" Evelyn crouches down, meeting Ella's gaze. "I'm here to meet your dad," she says, her voice warm, "and to apologize." Jacob watches them both, his expression conflicted but soft. "Ella, why don't you finish your drawing? I need to talk to Evelyn for a minute." Ella nods, returning to her drawing, her small smile lingering on her face. Evelyn turns back to Jacob. "I didn't know how much I needed to hear what you were saying until I was here." Jacob meets her gaze, a quiet understanding passing between them. "I think we've both been looking for something, Evelyn. Maybe we just needed to see it in each other." Some reunions don't start with grand gestures. Sometimes they start with two people finally hearing each other's silence. Evelyn glances at Jacob, her voice soft. "Thank you for letting me see it." The cafe is bustling with energy, but there's a new feeling in the air, one of calm, of purpose. Jacob and Evelyn stand at the counter looking over the small collection of framed photos that line the walls. One photo in particular catches Evelyn's eye. A picture of her son, smiling, youthful, carefree. The corners of her lips twitch at the memory. Jacob notices the shift in her expression. "You okay?" he asks, his voice low but full of concern. Evelyn nods, a bittersweet smile tugging at her mouth. "Yeah, just thinking about how much has changed." She turns to face him fully. "I never imagined this, any of this. Not like this." Jacob glances around the room, his gaze sweeping over the small tables, the chalkboard menus, the familiar faces that now fill the space. "I didn't either. But maybe that's the point. You start something small, something real, and you let it grow." She smiles softly, her eyes glimmering with a newfound sense of peace. "I like that." Jacob stands a little taller, his posture more confident. "I was thinking, maybe we could name it after her." Evelyn tilts her head, confused. "Her? Your son," he says quietly, his eyes meeting hers with sincerity. "We could call it Ella's Table." Evelyn's breath catches in her throat. She blinks back tears, her hand reaching up to cover her mouth. "Ella's table," she whispers, as if tasting the name for the first time. Sometimes the best things in life aren't born from grand gestures or elaborate plans. Sometimes they're born from the quiet spaces between people, in their hearts, in their memories. Evelyn nods slowly, her heart full. "That's perfect." Jacob smiles, a soft, contented look crossing his face. "Then let's make it happen." The doors of Ella's table swing open, welcoming a crowd of eager faces. The cafe, now alive with laughter and conversation, feels like a living testament to everything Jacob and Evelyn have built. Brick by brick, word by word, moment by moment. Evelyn stands by the entrance, her eyes scanning the room with a sense of pride she's never allowed herself to feel before. Jacob walks over to her, his expression bright with something between joy and disbelief. "It's perfect," he says, nodding toward the long line of customers, the steady hum of conversation filling the space. Evelyn smiles, her gaze following the flow of people. "It is. It's everything we never expected. But it's ours." A group of regulars waves from a table by the window. Jacob nods at them, feeling a sense of belonging he's never known. He walks over to pour coffee for a family, his hands steady, his movements practiced. But there's a new ease to them, something that comes with having found his place. Ella, standing by the counter with a tray of cookies, grins up at her father. "Dad, look!" Everyone's smiling. Jacob glances at her, his heart full. "That's because they're part of this too, baby." Every smile here matters. There are places where people come to fill their bellies, and places where they come to fill their souls. Sometimes those places start with nothing more than a name. Evelyn looks around, catching Jacob's eye. "You know this is only the beginning, right?" He nods, a quiet understanding between them. "I know, but it feels like we've already won." The camera pulls back, showing the full cafe, the laughter, the shared moments, and the picture of her son on the wall, framed beneath the sign that reads, "Ella's Table." The cafe is packed, the chatter rising in a warm hum that fills every corner. Jacob stands at the front, the room's energy pulling him into the moment. He's holding a small microphone, the kind that feels foreign in his hands but right in this space. The crowd quiets, anticipation in the air. Evelyn stands by his side, her gaze steady and calm, a soft smile on her lips. The staff looks on with pride, a quiet connection shared between all of them. Jacob clears his throat, the nerves that once weighed him down now replaced with something else. A quiet power. He looks around at the faces in the crowd, his heart steady. "Thank you," he begins, his voice clear. "Thank you all for being here today, for trusting this place, trusting us, with something more than just a meal. You've trusted us with a story, one that's still being written, one that's still unfolding." Evelyn watches him, her heart swelling with something unspoken. "Ella's Table is more than just a cafe," Jacob continues, his eyes flicking to the photo on the wall of her son. "It's a place where we can all remember that we're more than the roles the world gives us, that every moment, every person, deserves to be seen. And that's what we're doing here. We're seeing each other. We're feeding more than just our bodies. We're feeding our hearts." The room is still, everyone hanging on his words. Jacob looks at Evelyn, the meaning of the moment sinking in. In every meal shared, in every conversation had, there is a piece of the story we're all writing. Sometimes it takes someone else's heart to help us remember what's worth fighting for. Jacob smiles, his voice quiet but full of purpose. "Thank you for being part of our story." The crowd erupts into applause, the sound of it filling the room like warmth, like a second chance. The cafe is lively, full of the comforting rhythm of clinking cups and soft conversation. Jacob stands behind the counter, pouring coffee with ease, a smile playing on his lips. The small, intimate hum of the place feels like home, a sanctuary from everything outside. His phone buzzes on the counter. He glances at it, frowning slightly as he picks it up. It's a message from Rena. "You're trending again, Jake." He raises an eyebrow and opens the notification. The headline on his phone reads, This viral waiter's story has come full circle. Watch the moment that changed everything. His stomach tightens. He taps the link and watches as the familiar clip of him tearing up Evelyn's check floods the screen. It's the same video from months ago, the one that started everything. But this time it's not just a random moment. It's being shared with a new headline: A Journey of Redemption, Empathy and Heart. The man who refused to sell out. The clip runs, and this time it's paired with a new message at the end. Sometimes the world doesn't need to make sense. It just needs to be seen. Sometimes the stories that break us open are the ones that heal us in the end. The world doesn't always show you your worth, but it will always reflect the truth you stand by. Jacob watches, the familiar sting of his past mixing with the pride of knowing it's no longer the only story being told. The comments flood in, but this time they're different. Supportive, understanding, filled with admiration for the person he's become. He looks up at Evelyn, who's standing nearby, watching him. She smiles softly. "It's full circle now, isn't it?" Jacob nods slowly, a quiet sense of peace washing over him. "Yeah, it is." Rena's text follows. "Kindness wins is trending. You made it, Jake." The weight of the past and future seem lighter now, as if both can exist in the same space, together. The cafe is quieter now, the late afternoon light spilling in through the windows, casting long shadows across the room. Jacob stands at the counter, cleaning a coffee machine with methodical movements, his mind elsewhere. The hustle of the cafe has slowed, but a lingering sense of accomplishment fills the space. Evelyn steps inside, the door chiming as she enters. She walks straight to the counter, her heels clicking on the floor, her expression more relaxed than it's been in weeks. Jacob looks up from the machine, surprised but not unhappy to see her. She leans on the counter, watching him. "You're getting good at this," she says, her voice soft. He shrugs, a small smile pulling at his lips. "Just trying to keep up with everything. It's harder than it looks." She tilts her head, her eyes narrowing slightly. "No, you're leading." Jacob's eyes soften at the compliment, but there's something else beneath his smile. Something that he's only beginning to understand. "It's easier than it seems when you have people who believe in you." Evelyn takes a deep breath, looking at the space around them. The warmth, the laughter, the quiet joy in every corner of the cafe. "I never thought I could be the kind of person who helps someone like you," she says, her voice just above a whisper. Jacob stops wiping the counter and looks at her. "You didn't just help me, you saved me." Evelyn blinks, her breath catching for a moment. Her voice cracks slightly as she speaks again, her eyes glistening. "I didn't know that, until now." The greatest redemption doesn't come from the grand gestures we make, but from the small moments where we realize that by saving someone else, we save a part of ourselves. Evelyn smiles, the weight in her chest finally lifting. "Thank you, Jacob. You've given me back something I thought I lost." Jacob looks at her, his smile soft but sincere. "You gave it to me first, Evelyn. I just showed you how to see it again." The cafe is quieter now, the evening light turning golden as the sun dips below the horizon. The last few customers finish their meals, laughter and conversation flowing like music in the background. Jacob stands by the counter, his hands resting on the edge, looking out at the familiar scene. Evelyn is sitting at a table near the window, a cup of tea in front of her. Her eyes are closed, a serene smile on her face. Ella runs around the cafe, her laughter echoing through the room as she plays with a few of the staff members. Jacob watches them both. Evelyn, who has become a quiet strength in his life, and Ella, who has always been his reason to keep moving forward. He walks over to Evelyn, the sound of his footsteps blending into the peaceful hum of the cafe. He sits down across from her, his gaze following her eyes as she watches Ella. "This place," he begins, his voice quiet. "It's not just a cafe, is it?" Evelyn opens her eyes, her gaze meeting his. "No," she says softly. "It's a new beginning. For all of us." Jacob nods slowly, the weight of it sinking in. "I never imagined we'd end up here, together, making something real." Evelyn smiles, her eyes glistening in the soft light. "Neither did I." But sometimes, the best things come when we stop running from them. Ella runs over to them, holding up a drawing of the cafe. "Look, Dad! I made this for Ella's table." Jacob smiles, his heart full. "It's perfect, sweetheart." Some journeys don't follow the paths we expect. They take us through loss, through change, through moments of doubt. But at the end, there's always a place to come home to. A place where we can finally find peace. Jacob looks at Evelyn, his heart lighter than it's been in years. "You know," he says quietly, "some lunches feed the stomach, others feed the soul forever." The camera pulls back, the warmth of the cafe surrounding them. A place where hearts were healed, where kindness was given, and where, together, they finally found their home.